Week 15 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to buy and trade for this week. The first hitter, Marcus Semien of the Texas Rangers. So Marcus Semien, it's definitely been a down season for him. I know the RBIs are good, but everything else, he hasn't done much in. On the year, 12 home runs, 50 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 59 runs scored, a 232 average, and a 300 on-base percentage. So Semien last year, another great year, was 29 and 100. With 14 stolen bases and a 275, but this season the batting average was way down, the power numbers are down, and I still believe Semien could finish the year with a great season, even though he struggled, especially over the last month of the season. Ranger team, definitely a World Series hangover, but finally starting to get things going is this Texas Ranger team, winning 5 games in a row. Last couple weeks for Semien, like I said, he's really struggling. 1 home run, 6 RBIs, 7 runs scored, and a 137 average, a 228 on base. And even the last month, a homer, 13 RBIs, a stolen base, a 160 average, 233 on base, and 11 runs. So Semien definitely struggling. But like I said, I think he can get back on track as Marcus Semien. It just takes a couple week hot streak for his numbers to be there at the end of the season. July 6th versus Tampa, 1 for 3, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. July 7th versus Tampa, 0 for 4 run. July 8th at the Angels, 2 for 4 run, 2 RBIs. July 9th at the Angels, 1 for 4 run and an RBI. So obviously he's the catalyst, the leadoff hitter for this Ranger team. But he's definitely struggling big time over the last month. So right now, while he's been slumping and not doing much for fantasy owners, he's a perfect buy low candidate this week. The next hitter, Christopher Morel of the Chicago Cubs. So Morel, we know he's a pure power hitter, and it's pretty much a home run or a walk for Morel, but his batting average is way below where it was last season, where he hit 247. But this season, a 199 average on the year, 15 home runs, 46 RBIs, 38 runs scored, 7 stolen bases, a 199 average, and a 305 on base. And over the last month of the season, the power really hasn't been there as well for Morel. 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, a stolen base, 7 runs scored, a 191 average, and a 280 on base. So his on base is still good for Christopher Morel. He walks a whole bunch. Obviously, he's still a time power threat, but like I said, he's definitely struggled big time over the last couple weeks here, and he does qualify at second, third, and outfield, which is good versatility as well. And Morel, we know he's a streak hitter. There could be months where he hits 1 or 2 homers, or months where he hits 10. So you see now in mid-July almost that he heats up and gets going, but while he's been slumping big time, I don't think you got to give up much to get him. July 4th versus Philly, 1 for 4 in RBI. July 5th versus the Angels, 1 for 4. July 7th versus the Angels, 1 for 4. And July 9th at the O's, 1 for 4. So he's struggling mightily right now, is Christopher Morel. But like I said, it just takes a couple at-bats and a month for him to really help fantasy owners and carry a team. So right now, well, he's struggling big time, and he's even been dropped in a few percent of fantasy leagues out there in 20% of leagues on the waiver wire. He's a buy low hitter this week. The next hitter is teammate Cody Bellinger of the Chicago Cubs. So Cody Bellinger, he had a great season last year out of nowhere for Chicago after he was struggling for many seasons with Los Angeles after having that big MVP year. So last season, 26 and 97 with 20 stolen bases and a 307 average and a 356 on base. But this season, I know he missed some time with injury, but still 9 home runs, 37 RBIs, 39 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a 265 average, and a 326 on base. And over the last month of the year, the average has been good for Bellinger, but only 1 home run, 8 RBIs, a stolen base, 16 runs scored, a 277 average, and a 342 on base. And over the last couple weeks, only hitting 224. So Bellinger definitely in a slump right now. We know this team, for the most part this season, they've been struggling until recently, where they've won for 4 out of 5 games of late. So the last few games for Bellinger: July 4th versus Philly, 1 for 4, 2 runs in RBI. July 5th versus the Angels, 1 for 4 run. July 6th versus the Angels, 0 for 4. July 7th versus the Angels, 0 for 4. And July 9th at the O's, 1 for 5 with a run. So Cody Bellinger really hasn't done much over the last couple weeks here. We know he's still a great talent, and this Cub team obviously brought him back on a nice contract, even though he could opt out and go somewhere else. But anyway, I think Cody Bellinger, he's a hitter. You could buy him on the cheap right now. Like I said, only the 9 home runs. I know he missed time and only 37 RBIs, but he's another hitter. When he gets going, he really could carry a fantasy team. And we saw it last season. Next hitter is Matt Olson of the Atlanta Braves. So Olson's been on this list a whole lot this season, and he was a first round, early second round pick in most fantasy drafts after coming off of 54 homers 139 RBIs and a 283 average. He's struggled mightily this season, and he'll be lucky to finish the year with 30 home runs, to be honest. On the year, 13 home runs, 42 RBIs, 40 runs scored, a 239 average, and a 320 on base. And over the last couple weeks here, only 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a 196 average, and a 305 on base. So this Brave team, a lot of guys, they've been slumping all season. I know Ronald Acuna, him being out for the year, definitely takes away from this lineup and takes some good pitches away. But even with Acuna in there early in the season, Olson wasn't doing much. Olson, he was getting going a little bit, but now he's fizzled out once again. July 5th versus Philly, 1 for 4. July 6th versus Philly, 0 for 2. July 7th versus Philly, 1 for 4. A homer and RBI. July 8th at Arizona, 1 for 4. And July 9th at the Diamondbacks, 1 for 5 with a run. So this Brave team, they're starting to get things going a little bit of late, winning 4 games in a row. Austin Riley, he's been the hitter that's been waking up for this Brave team, because he's been slumping all season as well. But Matt Olson, he just can't get anything going right now. But I think an All-Star break could get him rested and get him back focused and come back is Olson and start showing the power. Like I said, he's not even on pace for 30 home runs right now after coming off 54 last season. But he's another hitter where it just takes a little bit of him to get out of the slump and get on a hot streak where he could hit 10 to 15 home runs in a month. And that's what Olson owners are hoping. Olson owners as well are frustrated where they're thinking of selling him off, because right now he's not doing anything for fantasy owners. And he's a hitter, like I said, you pretty much could get him for very cheap compared to coming into the season, where he was a first, second round pick in most fantasy drafts, and the 5th and final hitter I look to buy and trade for is Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks. You want to talk about a first round bust? He's even worse than Matt Olson so far this season. Is Corbin Carroll. 3 home runs, only 25 RBIs, 16 stolen bases, 55 runs scored, a 210 average, and a 296 on base. Corbin Carroll batting average has been low all first half of the season. Last year he stole 54 bases. Obviously he's not going to come close to that. And he had 25 and 76 as well, not going to come close to that. And this Diamondback team, they're pretty much in the same position where they were last season, maybe a little bit better, where they're 2 games out of the wild card is this Arizona Diamondback team. And then they made that run late August and September to sneak in as a 3rd wild card. But Corbin Carroll, he just hasn't done anything all season. And like I said, one of the biggest busts in fantasy baseball in a long time. So in the last month for Carroll, 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 22 runs scored, which is solid, a 226 average, and a 308 on base. But the last couple weeks, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 10 runs scored, a 180 average, and a 226 on base. So Carroll, he's struggling mightily right now for this Arizona Diamondback team. I know he's hit a home run a couple games ago, but still, he hasn't done anything all season. And Carroll owners, they got to be frustrated drafting this guy first, second round latest, and he's putting up numbers you get from a guy off the waiver wire. The only positive with Carroll so far this season, he's still got the 16 bags, and he still scored a decent amount of runs this year, 55 runs on the season. So the last few games, July 5th at the Padres, 2 for 5, 2 runs. July 6th at the Padres, 0 for 5, a run. July 7th at the Padres, 1 for 4, a homer and RBI. And July 8th versus the Braves, 1 for 5, a run, an RBI, a stolen base. So he's struggling big time. But he's another hitter, I think, after the All-Star break, some rest and just getting a few days off could really help some of these players. Buy Carroll this week, so that's a few hitters I look to buy and trade for Week 15 of the fantasy baseball season.